Hello, good afternoon. It is the 11th of December, 3 p.m. here in Finland, and the question I represent right in the beginning is what this kind of man finds attractive in a potential partner. And we are going to challenge AI to find more solutions and context for the answers. But first, for the intro, why this topic? In terms of unpending principles and values, out of which the first is that I'm flexible. I'm that man. That being said, there are certain things that I'm so certain and sure of that they are just unquestionably obvious to my soul, heart, and so forth. I could put my name on those matters, and one of which is that over a decade ago, and ever since before I turned 18, it was completely obvious to me that for my time, what I find valuable in persons that are of my interest, I will, and what they do on Fridays and over the weekends. Back then, my generation, begin to live the nightlife style and going to parties and clubs every Fridays over the weekends. And already back then it was obvious to me that that kind of lifestyle and then flaunting happiness in those parties, it's not aligned and it's not based on the true values that will result in more profound happiness. And thereby, it was completely obvious to me that I'm not going to spend my time in the parties, in the clubs, and I am a living example of that, the results of that. And it's a very natural topic that I can talk at ease. In that context, my previous books and this book series especially, and even the latest book, it goes through conversations and dialogues and situations where, for an example, this topic and the choices related to it, what kind of lifestyle you live, whether you go to the clubs, and what you find attractive in partner. These are choices based on values, and those choices and values are spoken through dialogue to the minuscule nuance in this book series, especially the third book. It's a clash of choices if you think about the women that represent the generation G, who have been born with phone at their hand, and then men who are already at the point of their lives that they have figured out their dreams, their passions, their ambitions. And when these kind of meet, in a sense that they both find each other to be in the potential so-called partner category, then there is the clash of principles, values, perspectives, how you would view what kind of lifestyle is worth to live, where to spend time, what kind of choices to make. And, there is attraction made of those choices. If no matter how the other person looks, if the choices they make on weekly basis are not based on the values that I have completely found to be worth to live, if not, then my attraction drops. Let's keep it very simple here. So those kind of dialogues and situations are thoroughly lived in this book series, Living Relations, Passing Distance. And now we are going to challenge the AI to explore this topic even further, since with this very brief intro that you can explore much more in depth and detail in the book, I can say that the Generation Z, the woman of the Generation Z, they have missed the basic principles that build up the attractiveness in the eyes of good men, ambitious, passionate men, that these women would find to be attractive men. You saw one in this picture, man about in his 35 years of age. Rising and emerging women of Generation Z, they want to find these good men. But the problem to solve here is that if you have missed what these men find attractive in you, if you have missed and misunderstood where that attraction is based, and if you have misunderstood the situational awareness where your choices and values should align in order to be attractive for these men, if you have missed all that, then you are in the kind of situation, as I am, and where I was in my, where when I was making the choice after being adult of age, turning 18 years old, I was making the choice where to spend my time, whether to go to the clubs where everybody else is partying, or focus my time elsewhere, building skills and so forth. So basically, I made the simplest estimation that it is only a small margin of people who I find attractive who are not going who are not sinking themselves, their time in the nightlife, clubs lifestyle. It was very small margin of people who I would find to be the potential partner worth of time, who would do something else, who would have more chaste, more pure hobbies during Fridays, during weekends, and so forth. And it's not only about clubs, it's much more about the ways of thinking, how you make the choices and why, and what kind of company and what kind of persons you want to accompany with yourself. That is right. Because if you are in the right place at the right time, but what is right, that is based on your values, your choices, your ways of thinking. And thereby, it was obvious to me that the kind of person I would like to accompany in my presence will not be found in the late nightlife club lifestyle. It was just completely obvious to me. Thereby, I will find the right person to become in a different place and a different time. For example, it might be along with some hobby I do, or some exercise I do. It might be outdoor gym, indoor gym, and so forth. It might be some, art-based exhibition. It might be just passing by on the street, but with the kind of topic that catches my ear, and I look by and hey, then we have this different kind of conversation that would not happen if this person would have something else in their choices and values, And my book series about all these complexes, my book series has the immersive contextual ground where I want to make very clear and, have the dialogue. My book, This Living Relations, Passing Distance, is mostly dialogue and conversations. Because that's what we are. We are dialogue. We are dialogue within ourselves, and then we can, after that dialogue is quite a crystal clear, then we can share the reasoning and our perspectives of understanding for the others. You can't do that unless you are clear with your principles. And likewise I said, I am a man of unbending principles, out of which the first is that I'm flexible. And that means I am very curious, finding reasoning and understanding in different views. And so far, there are these matters that nobody has been able to change my mind. And one of them is that I'm the living example of a man who did not go to the clubs where everybody else is. I'm a living example of that kind of man. And the question is, the question is back to basics. And the hypothesis was that how that kind of man views attractiveness in the other partner. And this is relevant because if you are, up to date with the matters of the world, we are going to hit the population crisis in the next decade. Starting, it's already going in the background, but the population of the planet will decrease dramatically. And I have, if you think about, for an example, Finland is good example of political parties because there are so many parties in the mainstream. And thereby there is clearly one party that is more family oriented. I want to be in the party that is supporting families, making sure that family life is good, that it is possible for anybody, even a student who is just turned 18 years old. Even a student is able to start a family in Finland. And there has been research and rankings that Finland is the best country to be a mother. But ironically and tragicomically, Finn women are still not, making families. And, women from Finland, they, start families when they are in their 30s. They bear the first child when they are in 30s. And that's why we want to explore this topic more. How this, the next big crisis that is related to population will emerge from there. But first of all, it all begins from the ways of thinking, understanding the values. And that we are exploring here furthermore. And especially in these topics, the dialogue is the most essential way to explore and understand more. And thereby, my books are mostly that dialogue between the main characters. To be clear, the role model in my book is not a man or is not a woman. It is both. It is both. It is the role model my book portrays is the connection in between, really. That's one of the baseline ambitions that I wanted to explore myself. Really how it is based on virtuous values, how it is possible to make progress even though there would be different choices, different values, and how you could reason out and sort out the best of the best to the top and make progress that way. So now this intro was much longer than I thought, so everybody is having the chat, AI chat on their tips of tongue goose, and thereby I just wrote having a cup of coffee, and I came up with this idea to write this challenge in that context I just mentioned. So I'm painting here the hypothesis for this AI. Let's see how it can figure it out. So I'm reading it aloud. Women of Generation Z seem to have no idea what men find deeply attractive. Let's see here. For an example, the women think it's attractive for a good man's eye when they are dancing in the clubs. Meanwhile, most of men prefer more self-restrained nature and temperate behavior from a potential partner. That is the example of the pure basics that men find attractive. Now I represent the challenge for the AI. Can you research chaste women's behavior and give 10 more situational examples how chaste women should behave so that men find them more attractive? And I'm not kind of taking any kind of stereotypical. I'm not kind of dividing anything to any stereotypes, what you should do, what should not do. You can do. I'm the most biggest advocate of freedom of choice you can find, probably. In the context that there is consequences to every choice. And, I have heard by many different directions that women, especially Generation Z, they are more and more alone. They don't. They are depressed because they seem to not be able to find a fulfilling partner and so forth. So there are many reasons why we can take this kind of hypothesis, and I just tried to make it simple for this AI, and let's find out what they can do. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to browse internet to research this topic. So it was too big of a challenge. So let's only okay. So this is too big of a challenge, it seems. So let's cut this a little bit down. Can you give 10 examples of more self-restrained nature and temperate behavior? Now it starts to write something. So let's see. Let's see. Here are 10 examples of self-restrained and temperate behavior by women. 1. A woman who is calm and collected in stressful situations and doesn't let her emotions get the better of her. Oh yeah. Isn't it so that when you go to the club and it's full of dancing people, women like to rise to the the benches or the podiums that are there in the clubs. They like to rise there and see everybody little from the angle of above. Isn't it that so that in those kind of situations it's more emotion based, So this is a good beginning. Good, I would say, yeah, 9 out of 10 beginning as the first one. And the thing is that you cannot make this, you cannot be self-restrained with your emotions if you allow yourself to be in such situations or places where the action is mostly emotion based, right? So if you want to comply with the first point, first of all, you should not even go to such places or such situations where it is emotion based, mostly, right? Or where it is possible, where it is possible that you slip and let emotions get the better hand. So let's continue. 2. A woman who thinks before she speaks, right? And doesn't say anything that might be hurtful or offensive. 3. A woman who is respectful of others and doesn't try to dominate conversations or belittle those around her. Right. A woman who is considerate of others' feelings and doesn't make decisions that might hurt or inconvenience others without thinking. 5. A woman who is patient and understanding and doesn't get easily frustrated or angry when things don't go as planned. Right? Yeah. So, when you go into places and situations where you expect a particular outcome, when you expect that you would find a potential partner, but it doesn't happen. How about that? Then it is typical to, this nightlife lifestyle that is lived there in the centrums of cities. It's typical that when you go to those situations in the nightlife, that you have particular expectations of finding something potential, something you can hold on to. But you don't, then it's kind of feeding the frustration, and it ends into the cycle where you are kind of trying to find something potential and particular in those places where it's less likely that you would find anything stable, and because it's all emotion based in the clubs, in the nightlife. But then you at the same time, especially women, I have found out that they have hidden and secret expectations of finding something really good, really, really good they can hold on to and they can admire and so forth. But they are going into the clubs, dancing and shaking buttocks, but it's kind of the wrong place to find the stableness they are looking for, right? It's all emotion based in the clubs. So there is the contradiction, huge contradiction, and that makes frustrations come out over time. And when you are frustrated, then you suddenly start to think more and more short-sightedly. You shorten your patience, you start to make more and more emotion-based choices and decisions because you are frustrated. You have less patience. Every night after night, every weekend after weekend, this Generation Z goes into the clubs and they get more and more frustrated. Thereby they make shorter and shorter sighted decisions and choices. And over time, what turns out to happen, their behavior, they make themselves more promiscuous. That's the outcome out of the frustration that they were not able to find the fulfilling partner in the nightlife. So we are connecting the dots here. then when things don't go as planned. But when you are too short-sighted, when you are frustrated, then there's not even plan. And then there is only second thoughts. Oh, I should not have done this. Oh, this should not have been possible to happen. But it happened because I let my frustrations go there. They find themselves in situations they wouldn't let themselves go otherwise. And it's the kind of cycle that keeps rolling on. So 6, a woman who is modest and humble doesn't seek attention or praise for her accomplishments. A woman who is gracious and polite doesn't engage in confrontational or rude behavior. A woman who is disciplined and controlled and doesn't let her impulses and desires lead her into making poor decisions, right? There was recently a big talk about abortion and so forth. I'm not going to dig into that for now, but I just say that one outstanding observation was that if you have the certainty of your actions, then you would not even possibly lead yourself into the kind of situations where something so unsought and so unhoped would happen, right? That is one thing that I usually heard as an argument there. So I would estimate that most of the abortions that are done these days, they happen after the woman made miscalculation about the man who they were with. So the most of abortions in Western countries are based on consent anyways, and thereby we gotta ask how that is possible. We gotta ask, why would not rather be more well preserved and be more accurate, be more precise in your choices based on your values, that you don't happen to lead yourself down to that pit hole where such an unfortunate event is possible even. So that requires discipline and self-restraint from impulses, because those make the poor decisions. 9, a woman who is thoughtful and reflective doesn't rush into action or decisions without considering the possible consequences, right? And then a woman who is balanced and level-headed and doesn't let her emotions or biases cloud her judgment. This is very all this kind of pinpoints to the discipline of virtues. And these days, when you think about the crowd, how crowd goes, when there is a crisis in the atmosphere, then people tend to bend towards the easy choice. They tend to go towards what is already popular without thinking, without judgment, without bias. They just wander towards, they blindly, when there is so much crisis and smoke in the atmosphere, they will, for an example, they will just look at the gallup and they will vote what is already on the top, what is already popular. That's just an example where there is bias happening. That bias that is clouding judgment, pure judgment. But these crisis times make those biased cycles happen. And what would make the solutions for this? The solutions is, of course, free speech, beginning from free speech and conversation, because without conversation of these philosophical topics, the dialogue cannot happen where there is understanding possible in between. Thereby, books are still the medium of the mediums. Books are still the baseline on the foundation of everything. They are conversation starters. They are the dialogue makers. And sadly, though, this generation Z doesn't read so much. So of course they are biased and they are easily led somewhere where their emotions just instinctively go. And it's very hard for them to be balanced and level-headed without biases. Just an example. So there are a lot of conversation and topics here, but this was this time based on this hypothesis here. At first, AI couldn't answer my original challenge here, but after getting it down, we could get answer to these examples of self-restrained and temperate behavior by women. Can you give 10 practical situations of the previous behaviors where they are present? Let's see. And this is why books are there for. In the books, I am talking about the practical situations of real life happening where these behaviors, these values are making the choice. That's why books are so important, because if you just have a phrase, what is good, you don't understand it. If you heard the phrase that, hey, it's good to be self-restrained, that doesn't yet tell you anything. You don't have the reason based on an example in practical situation in life. But in my books, I give those situations, and there I also, make it so immersive in real life, where then if you think about, hey, why I better to be more, why I can preserve myself well and better if I stay more self-restrained and don't go to the clubs? And then for that question, you can recall in mind this practical situation that is written in the book. So now it's writing. Look. Okay, the first example is about job interview. See how slow it is. It's really thinking. This is good challenge for the AI. It's really slowly thinking. Now it tries to think to these behaviors the AI gave me. It tries to think the practical situations. So 2 is a woman who listens carefully to a friend who is going through a difficult time. And here it is just gives an example of difficult time, but that is the situational awareness. How you make the choices and based on what reasons during that difficulty. And doesn't offer unsolicited advice or try to fix problems. That is good. Listening. Listening is also, the on top of reading is more rare. Also, the profound listening is more rare because people are so own agenda driven. So the 3 is a woman who is polite and respectful to a stranger she meets on the street and doesn't make assumptions or judgments about them based on their appearance and background. Okay, that's good. These are really the basics. I'm asking in the very beginning. I ask the basics here. This is an example of the pure basics that men find attractive. Right now we are getting into the and it's still thinking. It's still thinking. It's researching the web. This is really good challenge for the AI. And we are really here going forwards the core basic fundamentals what this kind of men find attractive. This kind of men. For a woman who is considerate of her partner's feelings and doesn't make major decisions without discussing them first. This is major. I have a pure example of this kind of situation in my book series. When the woman, the main character of a woman, was deciding whether to go to a midsummer party behind her boyfriend's back. Like she was making these decisions without even talking to her man. And think about it. That is the opposite to the 4th statement here. You must consider her partner's feelings. Major decisions without discussing them first. And in the book series, then when this turns out to what the situation is, that hey, she's planning to go, and she has been planning for many weeks already to go to the midsummer party without him, her man, then they discuss about this. They discuss about this, that it's not okay to make this kind of major decisions without discussing them first. And it is the deepest nuance It's written there. 5. A woman who is patient with her child as they learn new skill and doesn't get frustrated or angry when they struggle to make mistakes. Ah, this is so good. Think about it. Man, without even thinking for a second, a man's instinctive DNA code is designed to look and find attractive that kind of traits that would make a good mother. Think about it. And, too often the Gen Z women tends to think that it's on their looks, it's on their, that if they have the looks, they can behave however they. No, because looks don't make you only. There has to be someone to raise that child as well, and beauty is common. Beauty is common. With health awareness of these days, there are a beautiful woman for everybody. If you ask only numbers. So, a man does not even he doesn't think, oh, she doesn't make a good mother. But he just feels it. He just feels it. Oh, it's off. She starts to behave some kind of a getting angry and upset out of nothing, out of some minuscule trivial thing. Then instantly the man feels, oh, she would perhaps get angry with my child as well. And attraction drops. So again, this pinpoints to the previous Spiritus that we talked previously. I gotta pick up my charger just for a second. The AI is still thinking at the point 7. It could make it to the halfway. A woman who is gracious and polite to a coworker. I don't know how long this will take. I have a few times, I have not used this much by the way, yet. Because, it's not kind of useful to the level of nuance that I'm in my books writing. This will, I can say out loud that this will not help me to write my book. It's not relevant to the level of nuance that I consider worthwhile to write in my book. But anyways, I have few times before challenged this AI so that they thought about the answer for 20 seconds and then they just said that, oh, I couldn't figure this out. Something along those lines. But now it has never before been thinking this long. I don't know if it will be able to solve this problem even. So the 7 was a woman who is gracious and polite and doesn't engage in confrontational or rude behavior. So it only began a woman who is gracious and polite to a coworker. Who? Anyways, the 6th point was a woman who is modest and humble about her achievements and doesn't seek attention or praise from others to her compliments, to her accomplishments. It was almost the same as this res here. So yeah. I will let this AI think for the whole day. No, not for the whole day, but a couple hours at least, before I go outside for a hike. But we will cut the stream soon. Lastly, I would just point out that one fundamental observation, if we pressure down huge amount of context into one glimmering crystal clear conclusion, is that when it comes down to values and virtues, I have found out that the most valuable virtues are universally attractive for anyone, regardless of gender, regardless of age, regardless of color, regardless of anything. And one of the fundamental journeys of my book series is that it is the growth story into these universally valued virtues. So following this storyline in my books, you will find the practical situational dialogue and conversations and happenings on that journey on top of going to the top of these universally valued virtues. Those are very challenging, very effort demanding accomplishments of life. Thereby, understanding how to get there is the degree of challenge what I'm tackling when writing this book series. Because I want to make this book series a role model of those virtues, a timeless piece, a living example written into the storyline that could be thought out and lived out by anybody who wants to become the level-headed and disciplined person of their life. The best of the best they can get to is upon those universally valued virtues. And at least if you understand how those virtues are made of in terms of human behavior and traits and choices. The third book, The Choices That Made Us. If you understand that context, at least you have then the degree of freedom within your decisions and judgments and consequences. That is the very least I strive and aspire to accomplish with this book series. The very least, the understanding of the universally valued virtues. And it's not about that I would tell what they are. No, it's about this book series about showing what they are. Because showing is about living in the immersive real-time presence in the situation as it happens in the presence. That's showing. I gotta show it. I gotta show the examples that then can be understood. But before I can show, I have lived those. situations. And that is the level of challenge I am on my way already thus far, that the third book series is very, very close to the tip top. So while the AI is still thinking there, we will continue the next time. It was good spontaneous talk here, and remember, these are very basics of the very brief. As you see here, these are very, very short phrases, very simple skeletons of the topics and all what is beneath them. You need, beneath each of these, you need situational observations and practical example in some kind of room where dialogue happens, outside, in what kind of situations, how would you get there, what led there, how this human connection was initiated in the first place, and so forth. That's these living examples, living relations, and passing distance, because time is limited. We gotta pass the distance and make the choices that made us.